Oh, we are
Oh,
live.
we're live. We are live. No one's here yet.
But the people watching the recording are watching. So
Yes.
hi to the DVR folks.
Yeah. What I really want to do is, it would be too much for some people, but I think it would be hilarious to just drop you into the stream because, like, our entire weather conversation just now would have been great, like an icebreaker question. So, like, instead of like, how I send you the link and you
Right.
hop in and we chat, it would be awesome if it was just already live and you just hopped in. But some people get really, really weirded out by that.
I wouldn't
But
be, but I don't know if there's
I know
value
you
in
would.
it.
I mean, literally, dude, you're like the quintessential like sink or swim. Like I throw you in any
Was that a
situation.
triathlon reference?
That was. I tried to work in the triathlon. All right, so I know some people. So I made a post yesterday. So you're a Chick-fil-A lover, Atlanta Braves aficionado, triathlon freak, weather person fanatic. I'm trying to find all these adjectives. English is not my first language. Is that cover it? And you also have a wife, which is great.
I was gonna say, like,
And you're
you're
married.
starting with the not good things. Dude likes fast food, likes baseball. Like,
So when does baseball season start?
well, depends on what you define start. Pitchers and catchers report to spring training on Valentine's Day. So
Okay,
2 weeks, but there's not games until April.
Okay, so we're getting close.
We're getting there. Tired of winter. Once we get past the Super Bowl, it's baseball season as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah. And so are the Braves? So you and I talked about the Braves last time when we got dinner together. Basically, bad draw for them. I mean, are they going to be back this year? What are your kind of? This is not Atlanta Braves podcast. People tune in, they're like, what are they talking about?
Some of my friends gave me crap because I'm always optimistic and think like this is the year we're going to win the World Series.
I'm a South Carolina Gamecock fan, Colin.
Well, that's true. Is
it's
Shane the answer?
Year.
I think the Braves will make the playoffs, and once you get in, see what happens. I am planning to go to the World Series this October until proven otherwise.
I love that. I love that mindset. That's fantastic. So for those of you tuning in, welcome. Good morning. Happy Monday. Welcome to Guidance Counselor 2.0. Please say, hey, would love to hear from you. We talk about this all the time. So I've been doing this thing for almost 5 years, Colin. Next month would be 5 years with Guidance Counselor 2.0. And so, again, for those of you tuning in and really have no idea, because I'm live on TikTok right now. For those of you who do not know, the Guidance Counselor 2.0 was really an idea that came about during COVID because I was a traditional recruiter that recruited locally just to Nashville. And then when COVID hit, I saw really the whole entire engineering landscape kind of change. And that like I would be now recruiting on a national scale. And I was like, well, there's how am I going to reach people nationally if I'm just making phone calls day in, day out, right? And so I was like, well, I'm just going to go ahead and get LinkedIn Live. I got on LinkedIn Live, talked to me, myself, and my mom who tuned in every now and then for like 6 months. And then finally, after about 6 months, and people were like, hey, I would love to tell my story, would love to come on. And then here we are 5 years later, have had some amazing guests from, senior leadership from the FANG side of things, all the way down to boot camp grads who had success finding a job at a boot camp. Really this goal of this stream is just to tell people stories, and hopefully you can get something in this quick 30 minutes to really take throughout your career. That's my main goal, is to give you one thing that's very applicable to take throughout your career. And so I'm excited for this conversation today with Colin. Colin's a dear friend. Colin's one of those guys as a moderator is really easy because you kind of just ask Colin a question. He just goes with it, which is great. So we're going to have a great conversation today. But again, please say, hey, we'd love to hear from you. Want to give a shout out to Torque. Obviously, listen, we're doing some cool stuff. Really, Torque at a high level. We help people get jobs. Like every other talent solutions company out there, we're a little bit different. We won't get into the nuances, but if you want a job, join the platform. If you're a hiring manager, we hire both onshore, like U.S. talent, but we do a lot of LATAM, which is really interesting, kind of being in the LATAM world. And I've had a lot of success. Had a call with the founder last week, and he was like, I love what you guys are doing. I love kind of the nearshore versus offshore model and kind of how you guys provide. We don't really push resumes. You create a profile within our database, and we present that. So really cool stuff. Also want to give a shout out to AppWrite as well. I am an AppWrite hero. Again, so if you want to get started doing some backend as a service type stuff, which I don't even know what that is, please choose AppWrite. They're great. But again, Chris, it's good to see you. So we got two Atlanta folks in this morning. All right. So Colin, enough of me running my mouth, man. Let's give the people what they want. Who are you? What do you do? And we'll go from there.
I'm Colin. I grew up in Atlanta. My background is full of Atlanta stuff, but don't be confused by that. I live in Nashville, Tennessee. And for the last year, I've been, what's my title? It's senior engineering, engineering manager. I should know this. Senior manager, e-commerce engineering, which is a lot of words just to say that I oversee the website for Carter's, the baby clothes company.
I love it. Yeah, if you need baby clothes,
I should know my title. That's embarrassing.
It is a little embarrassing, Colin. So when people go to Carter's.com and buy off Carter's, you manage that whole experience. Would that be accurate?
Anything with the website would go through my team.
Nice. So if it sucks,
well said. Yeah, if there's a problem, it's probably going to go through my team too.
Exactly. I love it. So we're going to get some people tuning in. Good morning, y'all. My colleague and dear friend Brianna Holmes is also live right now. We're doing all these live streams as a team, so it's really funny. People jump in and out. It's great.
You've got competitors.
Yeah, no, not competitors at all. I always tell people go watch Brianna. All right. You had a pretty when I say incredible job search journey, I just think you had a lot of cards stacked up against you a year ago. For those of you who followed, Colin came on a while ago and talked about it, but it's been a bit. So I really want to bring Colin back on and talk about this story because you got laid off in the holidays, and you got laid off, I would argue, pretty much during the peak downturn of the market. And so again, I think, and I'm really excited for this live today because I think if you are either recently got laid off or you feel like you're about to get laid off, I think this is going to be the live stream that you should bookmark, as well as our buddy, Brian Walter.
It's his birthday. Happy birthday, Brian.
I need to message him. Brian Walter had a fantastic one too. So I think if you can watch Brian Walter's live on my YouTube and then this one, I think it's going to be great. So Colin, let's dive in, kind of paint the picture where you're at before Carter's and obviously we'll just kind of progress through that story.
Okay. So background before Carter's, starting in 2018, I was hired at Smile Direct Club, just standard senior engineer at that point. And from 2018 until the end of 2023, that's where I worked. And 2019, 2020, I can't remember exactly when because it sort of was unofficial and then became official. I became the engineering manager of the website, kind of basically the same thing that I do for Carter's now. I had a team that oversaw the site. Smile Direct, if you followed them, if you live in Nashville, they were kind of a big deal for a while. IPO'd in 2019, went bankrupt in 2003. So quite the roller coaster from where we were when we started. I was the first front-end engineer that they hired, and I had the privilege of shutting off the website when Smile went bankrupt in December of 2023. You're the one that,
like, literally flipped the switch.
As I was clicking to do it, I was like, wow, this is easier than it probably should be because it didn't take me very long. And I knew I was in the midst of one of those career moments where I would be telling that story for a while. And I've told it many times. It's like, I got to shut down what was a publicly traded NASDAQ company. I don't want to do it again, but put it on the resume. I don't care.
Yeah. Put that on, when I talk about that public summary or the professional summary, that should be a bullet point. Was responsible for turning off the company website for a publicly traded NASDAQ company.
Yeah. When they went the day they announced it, I found out an hour before most of the company because they needed me to shut down the site before they sent out the message saying, "Hey, the company is ending today." It was a day.
That was wild. All right, so and this was in December, right?
Mid-December, yeah.
Was it before Christmas or after Christmas?
It's a week before Christmas.
Nice, the best time.
Yeah.
Now, let me ask you this: severance or no? I mean, I would imagine there was nothing, right? Because they went back.
The only severance I got was I got to keep my laptop. My health insurance ended that day.
Listen, I'm not going to lie. Laptop, low key, it was nice. Again, shout out Vaco. They let me keep my laptop, which I eventually spilled chai on recently. If you watch my vlog, so I have my own laptop now. But all right, so no severance really. Got the laptop. Got laid off a week before Christmas. I mean, where were you at? I mean, I would argue that may be the shittiest time to get laid off.
It wasn't a fun day. I can tend to be annoying, optimistic guy where I'm always struggling to try to find the good in every day. And I know it annoys people because they're like, would you just be angry about it? And I mean, I was upset about it. But if there was a plus to it, it's that I got to tell my team personally because I was shutting down the site and I knew they would notice if the site went offline. So
you would think, hopefully.
Yeah, they would have known. But for everyone else that worked at Smile, they just got an email. And that was like how it ended, was you popped in, there was an email, and you were locked out. I got to call everyone on my team and tell them personally. And it's not that this was a shock that it happened. It's a shock the way it happened. We had been in bankruptcy for a few months. I had told everyone on my team, I was like, look, if you don't want to stay, I completely understand, respect it. I will support you. I will be a reference for you. I will write you a letter of recommendation. I hope you stay, but please don't if you don't feel comfortable with it. So it was nice to be able to sort of like tell them personally, because for whatever reason, I thank them. Nobody left during the Chapter 11 days. The remainder of my team all stayed intact. So it was nice to be able to tell them personally. And, if there's one plus, it was that we got to have sort of a goodbye rather than just a brutal email that just says, company's over, you're getting nothing. If you have a laptop, keep it, but see ya.
Yeah, that's not good. That's not good. Also, birthday boys here. Brian, happy birthday, buddy.
Happy birthday, Brian.
All right, so laid off, not good vibes. Tell me kind of what was your first step, man? I mean, walk me through again. If people watching, like I know literally Jeff on TikTok, he literally just commented on TikTok, goes, literally just caught myself at a layoff this morning. So literally there are people watching this that are actively getting laid off right now. So, if you could talk to Jeff or talk to anybody on this chat right now, talk about the steps, the fundamental building blocks that you did.
Well, I've watched and listened to your podcast for a while, and you've always talked about what to do when you get laid off, how to do job search type stuff. And for the entire duration of your podcast, I had been at one company. I hadn't been looking for anything. I think at the entire time I was at Smile, I took one interview. And I mean, I hadn't job searched in a long time.
Yep.
And I mean, maybe I should have been that last year, but everyone on my team I had personally hired, and I wasn't going to bail on them. Like, I mean, I was going to go down with the ship unless everybody else left before me. So like I said, it wasn't a shock that Smile went bankrupt. It was the manner of, like, a week earlier, they were saying, like, we think we've got financing. We think we're going to be great. And then a week later, bam, it's gone. So it wasn't a shock that it happened. It was a shock how it happened. So that day, I found out around lunchtime. I was sitting down. It was the week after I'd finished a triathlon, so I was eating junk food all week. I had Raising Cane's sitting right in front of me, and the phone rang from somebody who doesn't normally call me, and I'm like, oh man. And then it turned into all that madness. So the rest of the afternoon was like shutting the website down, talking to people, and around like 5 or 5:30, I drove over to Publix, and I was like, I'm getting a beer because it has been a day. And driving home, coming into our neighborhood, it's mid-December. We had Christmas lights up. And as I was pulling into the driveway, I had this moment where I just sort of stopped, literally took a photo of the house. And it was like, okay, this sucks. This is going to be a pain. There's probably going to be some weird, uncomfortable days where you feel shitty, but this does not define who you are. Like, Katie, my wife, has had some health stuff, and she's healthy now. And I was like, okay, you need to keep your priorities in order here. Just because you lost your job doesn't mean that all these other things aren't real. And the entire time I was unemployed, it's fighting the demons that, say you suck more than you think you actually are, and to focus on the things that matter. And for me, it was going back to the fact that Katie's healthy, I'm healthy. And as long as those two things are true, I can deal with anything else.
I love that. So got to the computer. What was first? Resume, LinkedIn, I'm assuming?
So something you've said on this podcast is you need to take time to grieve.
Yep.
And that feels intuitively wrong.
Correct.
Because
correct.
And even in the moment, I was like, I know he's talked about this so much. I want to go and just guns blazing, like fire out as many resumes as I can.
Reaction, it's the fight or flight. Like, it's fight. Like, I want to go.
It was made a little easier to me because this was something like December 14th. Like, it's mid-December. There's nobody hiring anyway. So it was kind of just like, okay, like, I'm going to have to take this moment to grieve. And that's something you got to do, especially, I mean, for me, I had been at Smile for more than 5 years. Everybody on the team I personally hired, it was a bummer. And I was sad about it. The one thing I would say in terms of grieving is you need to go and do a couple things right away. And I'm glad I went and did these things. Figure out unemployment. because it takes some time for that to process, at least in Tennessee.
Yeah.
And then what's your health insurance situation? It's a qualifying event. So did I want to get onto Katie's plan? Did I want to go onto the healthcare.gov marketplace? That's what I ended up doing. And I forget the exact day, but it was like December 13th, 14th. I had to sign up for healthcare.gov by the 15th to have coverage in January.
Wow.
So take time to grieve. You absolutely need to do that. But the things that take a lot of like days to process, so unemployment, health insurance, knock those out and then take some time. And for me, it was basically the rest of the year. Not quite true, because people started hitting me up on LinkedIn because I put a post up that said, here's what happened.
Yeah.
But I intended to spend the rest of December sort of just taking a chance to catch my breath. But I'm glad I didn't just totally bail, like, because I would have been without health insurance or having to sign up on Katie's.
Yeah, you got to stay aware.
And at least in Tennessee, unemployment takes a while to process, and we can talk about that too, because that was kind of a pain. But getting those two things done first, then grieving. That's what I would say to do the day that this happens.
How many days did you take off where you started searching?
2.
Yeah.
But only because people were reaching out to me saying, hey, let's have a conversation. I wasn't actively like going on job boards. But if somebody's like, hey, let's chat, like obviously I'm going to take it.
How were people finding you? Did you make a post on LinkedIn?
Okay. Smile blowing up was a big enough deal that it was a push alert on all the local news stations and CNN and the New York Times. So what I posted on, I don't think it was on LinkedIn. I think it was Instagram and my like Twitter and whatnot. It was a screenshot of my phone saying the company blew up. And I was like, this is a new one. Yes, this affects me. I'm looking for work. But all it was just a screenshot of like Channel 5 here in Nashville, New York Times, CNN. Smile Direct Club goes bankrupt. It was
mainstream media,
like
reaching out.
I realized like I need to call my mom, because she's going to find out on the news. And like my mother-in-law, like she's going to hear that like it's not one of those things that you can figure out how you want to announce it. I was like, okay, it has been announced. And now it's like, how do I want to address the message that is already there? It was a weird day, Taylor.
How did you, all right, did you go job board when you got back online? Were we mass applying? What were we doing?
I didn't really do a whole lot of mass applying, to be honest. It was all networking, people that I knew, and going through LinkedIn and seeing who worked at what companies, who had openings, and reaching out to them. I reached out to you, a couple other recruiters I know, and that was, I really never got to a point where I was just scrolling job boards and clicking apply. At least not until mid-January, because I figured anything there wasn't really a real job at that point, because it was about to be Christmas and New Year's and everybody's drinking eggnog.
Talk to me about, like, did you start opening up your DMs and start messaging people, your phone book? Like, talk to me about what your outreach looked like, because you didn't mass apply your resume, right?
No. It was, I mean, I guess it was a lot of DMing, either be it LinkedIn or just texting and whatnot. And I mean, sort of the good thing about this being a national news story was I had been at Smile long enough. Everyone kind of knew that's where I worked, and people were reaching out to me saying, hey, what do you need? How can I help? So that was really the first few weeks, was figuring out, okay, who do I know? What do they have? Because that's always going to lead to more success than just cold applying, scrolling job boards. That was really where I started.
I love that. So how did you, all right, so got laid off, took 2 days to grieve, filed for unemployment, and kind of got started again, did not mass apply for job postings. Talk to me about writing your resume, writing LinkedIn. Was it already written, or did you spend a day writing your resume and LinkedIn at one time? Like what did
I sort of updated it a little bit. I kind of had a feeling I might be needing to look for a job sooner than later. But like I said, in my mind, the worst case scenario was the company's shutting down, but we're going to do a 60-day wind down or something. I didn't think it was going to be, I got to do this right now.
Right.
So it was kind of already there, but I kind of touched it up. And at least for me, whenever I apply for jobs or talk to people about jobs, I've got like a base template. Like, this is my resume. It's what I would send to you. But I'll try to target the resume a little bit to the position. Like if they're looking for something with Salesforce, I'll find a way to highlight Salesforce more or change a bullet point.
Sure.
But there's the base Colin template, and then I've got, I'll copy paste and change a couple things and send that PDF out.
Yeah, 100%. So conversations that you were having, right? I mean, I think a lot of people don't know where to begin, how to even message. I think a lot of people feel weird about messaging for a job when they got laid off. Like, what was kind of your cadence around messaging, and then also the messages that you were sending out? Like, what did they say? Like, hey, I need a job. Can you help? I mean,
well, it's sort of funny because, not funny in a weird way. Like, I couldn't hide from this. Like most people, like every interview that I had, you'd have that first 5 minutes, like, so, hey, why'd you leave your last job? And they already knew the answer. Right. Like, they're like, so why'd you leave the last job?
CNN or Fox or
yeah, I'm like, just check the news. It's like, it's wasn't the problem with the website. So, I've never been laid off before, and I guess the fact that it was so out there, I don't think I would have felt like embarrassment or shame from it. I can kind of see how you would, but I couldn't even run from it because my resume says Smile Direct Club 5.5 years. And I had every interview that I had, not once did I have to say why I was looking for a role. Everybody already knew. So for me, I guess I couldn't really hide from it. That said, on the other side of the coin, if I'm a hiring manager and somebody's talking to me, I'm not going to think less of you if you got laid off. Like I if anything, it helps paint the picture. So I wouldn't try to hide from it.
In this market, I think some encouragement to people, if you got laid off, I think it's way less of a scarlet letter than it was 10 years ago.
Right. It's
like now it's not even like, to me, it's not even a thing. Like, I don't even think about it. Like,
if you said to me, I got laid off and I'm looking for a new job versus, well, things just kind of didn't work out.
Yeah, that's weird. Don't
hide from it. Like, just say, this is what happened. I mean, especially if you can kind of like say more details behind the layoff. In my case, it was the entire company. Sure. But if it was just you, if it was your team, like what are the circumstances behind it? If nothing else, it's a conversation starter, and it helps me learn more about your background, what you were doing, and I can use that to spin into asking what you're looking for next.
So you were in the DMs. Were you trying to have like one conversation a day, 2 conversations a day? Were you hopping on Zooms? Was it just a lot of DMs and text back and forth? Like, what did that look like for you?
So I know you've always said, I forget the number, like X amount of intentional converstions a day.
I try to do 3 a day. That's a little aggressive. I mean, that's like traditional recruiting numbers is 3 conversations a day, but that's kind of the golden standard.
For me, and this sounds sort of cheesy, but it was, I'm not going to spend a day letting this make me sad.
I love that. I mean, no,
if there's days where I'm feeling shitty, okay, like I don't need to drag myself up and like force out a couple emails or whatnot that probably aren't going to be good anyway. It was more of just taking stock of how I feel day to day.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, in my mind, you mentioned it briefly, I compete in triathlons on weekends, so I do a whole lot of swimming, biking, and running. Those can get very hard and challenging. There are some days where you just don't feel great. You're tired, whatnot, and you say, okay, I'm going to...
low, like...
Right, like I'm going to... I'm supposed to run 10 miles. I'm only going to run 5. Did I fail today? No, because I was already feeling sore. I tried to take that approach to job searching. Like,
I love that.
If I only have the energy to do one of these because I'm feeling down about something or I got rejected from a role, I'm not going to force it.
Yeah.
And I mean, I went into this job search feeling like I was probably a pretty decent candidate. That said, I knew the job market was kind of meh.
Well, and too, I think I haven't even highlighted, you were a engineering leader, and those roles are even harder to come by. So not only were you laid off at the holidays, not only were you laid off for no severance, not only was it the downturn a year ago of the market, and you were an engineering leader. I mean, you had a lot of cards stacked against you, just being honest.
I did. And I had I found companies that I interviewed with where I was like, oh, this is an awesome role. Yeah. And I got rejected immediately after that first interview for a stupid reason. And I'm like, I cannot believe that you took this interview that I thought went really well, and you're just like, I'm moving on. And that was something that I've kind of learned through applying. Not that I've applied for jobs recently, but like previously in my career, or like looking for roles. Like, it's that you can't let yourself get too emotionally invested in the role until way at the end. And like, this is Colin of 10 years ago, back when my beard wasn't gray and my hair wasn't falling out. But I would get like 2 rounds into an interview and tell like 8 friends, like, this is awesome. Look, this is going to work out. And then
love all over again.
Right.
Like,
and any friend is like, well, that's cool. Tell me how it's going. And then you end up getting rejected or it doesn't work out in the last round or so. And now you've got this extra burden of, wow, I got emotionally invested in it. Now I got to tell my friends I got rejected from this job, which just sucks that much more. Right. So one thing I decided to do really early on was, unless it was somebody like sort of helping me, like in your role, like we talked recruiter stuff, but it was Katie and my 2 triathlon teammates. Those are the only people that I like vented about job stuff with. Yeah. And everybody else, it was just, hey, it's going. Let me know if there's anything you need to chat about. So if it didn't work out, I just telling them so you've got somebody to talk about. But like, man, if there's one thing that I'm glad I didn't do in this process, it's that even for the job I'm at now, like I was very excited about it and it felt good early on, but I did not let myself get emotionally invested in that thing, like until even after the verbal offer. Like I was like, I need to see the document to sign. Give me the DocuSign link. Because otherwise, you're setting yourself up for more harm than good, even if it feels like you want to get excited about a role. Yep,
absolutely. So how did this role come about at Carter's? I'm kind of curious with this.
LinkedIn.
Like how?
Somebody reached out to me.
Okay.
And it was in response to my message saying, hey, I'm looking for work.
So who did you message at Carter's?
Their recruiter saw I was looking for work. And messaged me. Okay. And we started talking. So I'm very lucky in that this, in essence, came to me rather than me seeking it out.
So I haven't said this in a while. Again, it's really funny. I mean, this is a whole nother conversation of itself. Like I've spent 4 years doing job search content. Now I'm kind of like in dev marketing and community building. And so like my engagement, it's like an all-time low. But like one of the things I used to say is, you can kind of use LinkedIn 3 different ways. And the more of the 3 ways you use it, the more successful you'll be. You can actually put out content, document your job search. You can just leverage the DMs, and then you can like and comment on people's posts. You weren't putting out stuff on LinkedIn. You weren't, because I think people get tired, like, oh, Taylor's out here talking again about freaking content creator and posting shit on the internet. You didn't do that. But I felt like you used the inner workings, the DMs, the liking, the comments, all that stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't think there's a one size fits all way to do this. Like if you go and look at my LinkedIn, like I do not post all that much just because I don't know, that just doesn't feel like my platform to write. And that's okay. That said, I do think I have a pretty decent network from people that I've worked with, people that I've met, people in the chat, people I've met at conferences. So my DMs in LinkedIn, which I try to move it to iMessage or texting because I hate LinkedIn's DM feature, but I was sending a lot of messages out, not necessarily posting about it. And, that worked for me. Other people that put out content, I'm like, oh, this is awful. It's more just, finding how you want to represent yourself and do your job search. What worked for me, and I can tell you everything I did, it might not work for somebody else. And that's not to say my way's right or wrong. It's just, this is who I am and how I approached it.
Yeah. So it is funny. The job you got was actually from somebody not in your network.
Yes. Yeah, that's true. It was somebody who found me
kind of crazy
from my post on LinkedIn, which blew up because of all the news, because it was trending because I said Smile Direct Club. So like it's still the most viewed thing I've ever posted, which was, hey, I lost my job. Smile went out of business. Yeah. Which is sort of sad because I put some cool stuff out there and it's like no views. But this thing, like I still get emails now in 2025 where it's like your best performing post was I got laid off from Smile Direct Club in 2023. And I'm like, the algorithm, I swear, it's just.
Well, it's even changed. Like, that's another conversation. Yeah. But it's interesting because this is why I try to interview different people, right? So Colin, did a lot of things I talked about. Take some time, edit your resume, LinkedIn. Did you pay anybody for that?
No, it's just me.
Yep. Filed for unemployment. Was in the DMs networking, making calls, having calls. Got the job. Brian Walter, prime example. Brian, none of that worked for him. Brian's job most recently at Republic is because of somebody he knew who said, hey, you'd probably, I forgot the intricacies of it, but that job was because, so that's why like I try to have all of these calls with different people, because what works for Colin isn't going to work for somebody else, but the framework is there. And I think what I really want to reiterate, and Colin, as we wrap up here, I want you to have, a few moments to kind of leave with words of wisdom, but the activity is the biggest thing. If you go back and listen to Brian Walter's live stream I have on my YouTube, if you talk to Colin even outside of this on a one-on-one, and Colin's a great resource, highly recommended for any of my Guidance Counselor 2.0 listeners. It's activity. Colin just didn't sit on the couch waiting for something. He was active. You have to have a lot going, and then for some random reason, the thing that was just right out of the blue was the one that worked for him. Thoughts on that?
What worked for me with this job hunt? I mean, I hope to be at Carter's for a long time. I don't plan to be job hunting anytime soon,
Sure.
but this may not. I mean, I know I got very lucky in that something came to me.
Sure.
That's not really a reflection of anything that I did right. There's a huge element of luck to this. And the thing that I've tried to keep in mind, like for myself going to the job hunt or any of my friends who I know who have gone through it, and unfortunately, like a lot of people are getting laid off, it's that luck is unfair. This is an unfair process. Like it depends
100%.
on who sees what.
100%.
Like it could be something that you say, timing, something that you say that is good or bad that gets you the job or doesn't get you the job. And it's not a reflection on who you are as a person, an engineer, for me, an engineering manager. If I got rejected from a role, like it stunk and it didn't feel great, but it didn't mean I suck as a person. And it's so easy to feel that way. And that was the biggest thing that I think I focused on through the whole job search. And what I would tell anybody else who's in this spot is it's not a reflection on you. If for me, it took 2.5 months, for Brian, I know it took longer. It doesn't mean I'm a better manager than Brian. If anything, Brian is who I try to emulate as a manager, because I fell into being a manager at Smile, and until I figured out my own style, I was just, well, what would Brian do in this situation? Right. So for me, it's like, well, how would you not hire Brian? It's just a nature of, this is this unlucky thing. And sometimes you have a full house. Sometimes you have a 2 and a 7. Doesn't mean you're a good or a bad person. It's just the process of looking for a job in this market.
And that's why, again, I think activity, the more plates you have spinning, kind of the way I run my team and bless my team's heart, they kind of get tired of it. I try to have 50,000 plates spinning at one time, very well knowing that I have 48,000 plates that are going to come crashing down or not execute. But that's still 2,000 plates that are still spinning, when most people just try to have 50 plates spinning. Right.
I mean, I wouldn't use the phrase crashing down. I
just meant more out of self-deprecation with my team.
Okay, fair.
But I just mean more like the more activity you have going on, the more something is going to happen.
I mean, it sounds cliche and obvious and easy, but like having a good network helps. Yeah. Like I know it certainly helped me. It got me in the door of a lot of roles that I might not have if I applied blind and cold.
Yeah.
But that's just like, again, Brian and I both do this. It's a triathlon reference. You don't become a triathlete on race day. It's every day you've got to do that. Every day you've got to network a little bit. So when you need it, it's there. It's not just waking up one day and having a network. It's people in the chat, like you always say. Anybody that wants to chat with me, you know where to find me. There's only one at Colin Lord on the internet. So any platform, I'm probably there with that handle. Yeah. If you want to vent or talk about layoff stuff, feel free. And you can, that's +1 for expanding your network and mine.
Well, and that's why I tell people on this live show, if my goal for this is for you to network off the back of me. If you've networked with every single guest I've had on the show and every single person that are in the DMs for the last 5 years, your network would be insane. And I feel like there's maybe only 10 people that have done that, maybe in 5 years, maybe. So, and Seth, obviously, Seth, another engineering leader here in the Nashville market. I never post content. That long-term networking is activity, 100%. Yeah, I'm not saying you got to post content, right? But what Seth's in the Nash Dev Slack channel. He's going to meetups. He keeps up with people, which is obviously a huge part of your career. Calling anything else?
Even if you're laid off, and that's just something that went through my mind, was don't let that sense of desperation kind of take over how you do your job search. There's a longer story behind this goofy background that we won't get into because I know we're running out of time. But I did every interview with this nonsense behind me, full of Atlanta Braves bobbleheads and Coca-Cola bottles.
Right.
And I'm convinced, at least in one interview, they rejected me because they're like, this guy isn't serious. Fair. Okay, fine. We probably wouldn't have gotten along anyway. Like, so don't change who you are as a person just because you're laid off versus if I have a job and I'm looking for something else. Because I honestly, I tried to think of like, well, do I want to have this ridiculously unprofessional background where the only thing that's respectable is this photo of Katie? Yes, I did every interview with this and people either laughed, found it weird or whatever, but I still was me, even though I was, I guess desperate to find a job because I was. Don't let that desperation creep into your mind. Still be you. And don't change because of your circumstances.
Totally agree. Colin, as we wrap up, obviously we do a little rapid fire here. And again, for those of you tuning in, please connect with Colin. Literally, Colin is a great friend. He is a salt of the earth, gem of a human being. So please go message with him.
I don't handle compliments well, Taylor.
I know. Just say okay and nod your head. First question I always ask, when it comes to well, actually, I just drew a blank. All right, if I were to tell you tomorrow that you wake up, you can't do anything in tech, what would you do?
You know the answer. You know the answer to this.
I know the answer, but people don't.
Something in triathlon, sports, or weather. Those are my other interests. Like A, B, or C.
Yeah, but if I had to pick though, honestly, like which one would be like your dream? Like, would you really want to do triathlons for your job?
Probably not. It's a lot of sweat.
Yeah, a lot. Would it be working like in the Braves office? Would that be pretty cool?
I mean, if money was no object, let me run the Braves Instagram and Twitter handles, and I'll just tweet nonsense. I'll tweet nonsense about the Mets all day long and be happy.
Media, man. I love it. When it comes to anything from a technology, things you're reading, things you're maybe using on the team, is there anything that you're tinkering with right now that's kind of interesting that you want to let people know about?
I'm going through this process of reevaluating everything about social media because there's the exodus from Twitter to Threads to Blue Sky. And I have all this content spread across all these different places. And it's making me realize I probably need to have a website like colinlord.com. I own it, but it's a very outdated photo of me. If you go look at it, my beard is not this color. And it's the background of a company I worked at 2 years ago, or 2 jobs ago before Smile. So it's very out of date. And I'm starting to realize rather than just exclusively posting like, here's what I did at this conference or that conference or this triathlon, I should also be posting it on my own website. So I own the content. So if we have another exodus from some platform to some other platform, it's not just vanishing with it. That's not, I guess it's sort of a cop-out answer, but I'm kind of just thinking about like, where do I want my stuff to live?
So I've actually thought about this and I think, we may need to talk about this. I know there's such thing called like RSS feeds where you can essentially like, that's like the old school. I don't know much about it.
It's not old school. I use them all the time.
Okay. So it's like, I wonder, like for me, it's like, hey, you don't have to go to, because you can just integrate an RSS feed like with an app or something, right? Like,
you can. I mean, it's not so much that, it's more like I wrote a race report about a triathlon that I did. But if I decide like I want to delete my Twitter/X account because reasons, that's where all that content was, and now it's just gone.
Right. Yeah.
So,
I thought about this. It's like, how can you almost create your own social media page,
right,
where people can follow you and you can still post everything?
Yeah, and I don't know the answer because I know most platforms don't like you linking out to somewhere else.
On my website, I know, and I understand that, but like, it's more social media-y and less website-y, which is, I think, kind of, it's going to be more like it's like a Twitter stream. It's just an RSS feed, and maybe that is a website. I don't know, but it's like,
and it's almost more for me. Like if my X account, Twitter, whatever, just vanished, there's a lot of content on there that I personally would want to have that isn't there. I mean, like MySpace went away. Like it's stuff. Not that I had anything of value on MySpace, but like I don't own a lot of my own content, nor do I even really have a backup. Seth.
Because we're kind of I don't really know. I don't really know what RSS, but like it would be interesting. Like I'll go to taylordestin.com. I want to subscribe to him because I would choose everything, right? Because I just started like an Instagram. I don't know if you saw it. I started like an Instagram like sub channel where I can like specifically message people. There's only like 13 people. I don't care. I think it's kind of cool where it's more direct communication.
But it's again, it's just one more thing.
Right.
It's like everybody. everybody in the media is leaving legacy jobs to start their own Substack. But that's not a reflection of Substack. Like, is Substack still going to be Substack in 5 years, or is it just another platform?
Yeah, because like for me, this is an interesting conversation. I did not expect it to go this way. But like prime example, I have a creator I love. His name's Marcus
Colin
Malone.
Lord?
Yeah, no. Marcus Malone. He's in the run community, Mints in New York,
Yeah.
the fashion brand, the men's fashion brand. I love everything he does. He could post that he's eating a egg white because he's really into running, so he eats real clean, like the egg whites and the ground turkey, whatever.
No, I don't.
I love you. I could if Marcus had like a constant stream of thought somewhere that's not dispersed over fucking 7 platforms,
Right.
I would follow it because it's like just following Marcus.
Yeah.
But like it would have the ability to do like short form video, long form video, text. Maybe we're creating an app right now, man.
I didn't mean to take your rapid fire question and do 10 minutes on it, but that's where my mind is.
But I've actually been thinking about this though, which is crazy, which is we've both been thinking about. Like I would love to follow along with your training stuff and Brave stuff. I mean, for real.
Yeah.
Like, the one MLB game I ever went to back in the 90s was the Braves. I saw Chipper Jones and all that stuff. I'm
bobbleheads back there.
A Braves fan. Also, because of WGN growing up, I'm a low-key Chicago Cubs fan too. But like, all that being said, like it would be cool just to follow you on one place for everything.
Right. And that doesn't exist.
That doesn't exist. Huh. All right. Anything you've watched, read lately? Any just general content suggestions?
I've been watching Succession. And that is it's such a good and such a creepy show. It comes out Friday nights, so I watch it Saturday when I'm doing my bike rides indoors, not riding outside with my iPad. But that's like it is such a good show. It's on Apple TV, so like I feel like not everybody gets it, but
I love it. I'll check that out. Obviously, last question. Give us. Do you have anybody or any person? They don't have to be public. They can even just be private. Anybody you want to give a shout out to who's doing some cool stuff in the community? Whether it's fitness or tech or anything. Just anybody who's doing cool.
We've mentioned him a couple of times. I'll just say happy birthday to Brian Walter.
Yeah.
Watch his podcast with you. And I wouldn't be the engineering manager that I am, and I wouldn't have this job at Carter's if I didn't work under him and then try to emulate him. So shout out to Brian, and thanks, man.
Yep. Again, shout out Brian, and I would highly recommend checking out that episode too on my YouTube. Final question, Colin. I always ask this. Guidance Counselor 2.0, biggest piece of career advice. Well, if you go back and tell Colin something earlier in his career, what would it be?
I've been on your show multiple times, and you ask me this question every time.
I forget. I interview so many people. I'm
pretty sure I've given the same answer, but I'm just going to give it again because it's what immediately pops into my mind. It's that we all need to be kind to ourselves. It is so easy, especially in the job hunt, to tell yourself that you suck and that I got rejected from this job and I'm an idiot. And it's just not true. The job hunt is not reflective of who you are as a human being. Yeah. And everyone I know who's gone through the job hunt, that's the first thing I tell them. And if they ever come to me and say, I got rejected and I feel shitty, I usually regurgitate the exact same answer.
Yep.
If you're unemployed, if you're looking for a job, or even if you're just employed and looking for a job, like if you get rejected from something, that's not a reflection on you. It might even be something that you couldn't even control. And please be kind to yourself.
Yep. I love that. All right, y'all. Well, that was great. Colin, stay on real quick so I can say bye to you backstage. But y'all have a great one. Appreciate it. Tomorrow we are off because tomorrow I have a monthly all hands with my team, so cannot go live tomorrow. Wednesday we have the great Andy Wong on the show. Andy's former block engineer, Facebook engineer, Google engineer. He's got quite a following. He's up in Boston, so that's going to be a great show. And then Thursday I have my dear friend Jeremy Barger on. He's another engineering leader. Great guy. So a lot of great, two more great guests this week. So again, off tomorrow, but then we'll see y'all 9:30 a.m. Central on Wednesday. Y'all have a good one. Peace.